Within all this, we have an understanding both of equality as a cold technical measurement and also as a quality of fairness. So equality would be giving everybody the same seat to watch the show, while fairness would be letting the little children sit at the front. Treating everybody exactly the same doesn't work because nature doesn't give us the same bodies or the same minds. The consequence of not thinking about equality properly is a dysfunctional, heartless, completely inefficient society. Let's turn that round and make it into a question. Do we consider the consequences of equality? Do we really explore them, whatever type of equality we advocate? Or do we leave these consequences half-considered, half-explored, half-thought out? Do we follow the rabbit hole all the way to the end? The median wage for full and part-time work in the UK is around £23,000. My wage is above that. So if I say that I want greater equality, to what extent am I prepared to give up those privileges I already have? I don't know, but I do know that I'm not the only one avoiding the question. This is about more than simply paying other people the same wage or paying a little bit more tax. This is about looking at how small differences grow from the different ways that people use their money and taking that into account as well. Let's also consider meritocracy. So if I say that I think that where someone ends up should be determined by ability, I'm accepting that I could go down as well as up. And unless I believe in the inherent value of my skills against some objective external list, I'm also accepting that value is as valued by the community. The list of skills currently prized may change. The community may need something different, and what I have may no longer be valuable, may no longer be worth anything. Talking ideas through with other people makes us realise that there are different perspectives which can be valuable here. Many people may have had the experience of speaking to someone who dislikes all people on benefits, except, of course, those few that they've met. They dislike all people on benefits except that poor couple down the road because they really need it. Or the neighbour's poor daughter. She's a single mum, but not like all the others you hear about on the radio, not like all the others you read about in the paper. And somehow none of the people they meet are at all like these mythical stereotypes, these others who live outside the people they've met. And maybe if they met more people, they'd realise that the stereotypes are not always accurate. This isn't just about social conservatives. My former partner used to work for the MOD, and I was very cautious about saying where he worked in certain circles. I felt very self-conscious about it. I never ceased to be heartened by people meeting other people for the first time and realising that although they are so different, there is something that makes them into a valuable human being, that their views are not a million miles away. Meeting other people makes us realise that they are not monsters. There's a similarity between realising where other people come from and looking for where we ourselves have come from. Friends, some of us have so much privilege, are given so much privilege by society at the moment. The mentality of privilege seeps through, making life easier for some in ways that are hardly even imagined, while for others the distant memory of hunger clouds each moment with fear. The way that we are treated by others comes from our everyday realities. And so privilege begets luck, while despair gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Check your privilege against the objects which mark out class. It's not always the case that conspicuous consumption is a sign of wealth. Quite often we think that is too nouveau riche, too American dream. Is it the case that our testimony for simplicity risks becoming no more than a hair shirt for the chattering classes? or even an adherence to the John Lewis list. 2 years ago at Britain Yearly Meeting in London, we talked about how the distribution of wealth can divide us. No one talked about the different values placed on blue-collar and white-collar jobs. The only mention of class came from teenage friends. Older friends, time after time, talked about the system, talked about capitalism, talked about poverty. The only person who said class was a teenager. And if we are the privileged, then who are the less privileged? Who are the most discriminated against? Who are those who are treated less equally? The homeless are treated less equally, because it seems that not having a place in our hearts is the same as not having a home. And yet, precisely because they don't have a home, they're there in front of us, on the streets, and we walk past them, we step over them, we ignore them. Refugees and asylum seekers are demonized as liars and cheats who would do and say anything to get into this country, seemingly, it seems, to starve in our streets, to languish in our detention centres. Gypsies and travellers who have different histories and different cultures to ours are feared and mocked. People who don't fit into our view of what people should be, our normal type of communities, especially when they don't fit in multiple ways, are hated. Saying someone is less than human removes the need to understand them, and it gets into the conversation as degrees of dehumanization. This is less about rights denied and privileges withheld than about the need to be recognized as a moral, responsible human being. That's what American campaigner for women's suffrage and against slavery Lucretia Mott said more than 150 years ago. Those with the luck to be born with certain characteristics into certain circumstances have the ability to discriminate against others. That privilege means prejudice. It means power. We have the ability to discriminate, to bind others up with laws that they can't understand and can't overturn, to be prejudiced with customs that they know nothing about. Friends, recognise that the way that you treat others may be clouded by your personal norms and your own privilege.